Anyway, today we are going to be talking about reincarnation. If you believe in it, if you don't, we'll share some stories about some people who claim that they have had experiences with reincarnation. Also, stories of people who have claimed to have died and come back, or have technically were pronounced dead and then came back. But I guess kind of like what they saw while they were dead. So, yeah, my first story is, and supposedly this guy was like all over the news. It's James Leninger. I don't know if anybody on here has heard of him. I have not, but I guess it's a big deal back in like the early 2000s because he was all over the news. He was on like multiple TV shows. All of his parents were like interviewed about him multiple times. So supposedly this is a big case, according to Google and YouTube. He's all over. But I did not hear about him. So if you were like me and you did not hear about him, he was a little boy that at the age of 2 started claiming that he was a World War II veteran by the name of James Houston. And it's funny because his name is James Leninger. So right off the bat, just from me like watching YouTube videos and watching like some of the clips on like his parents being interviewed, his parents claim that at the age of 18 months old is when he started saying like full sentences and would wake up and have like night terrors about a plane crash. Now, Ash, you and I work with children that are in that same age range. I could not picture one of our children waking up and saying, "Hey, I was on an aircraft and it got shot down and I am James Houston."
Yeah, no.
How do you feel about, well, first off, do you believe in reincarnation? Do you think that people could be reincarnated?
I want to say yes because I feel like I have like lots of deja vu of
Mm-hmm.
things that already happened or whatever. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say yes, and I feel like that's my reason why. Because I have a lot of deja vu, and I'm like, wait,
Well, supposedly that is a symptom. No, I don't know. But just to give the official definition, reincarnation is the rebirth of a soul in a physical body. So this is people claiming that they are somebody who has passed on or take on the soul of somebody who has passed on. So this little boy James, at 18 months old, supposedly started saying full sentences and would start with these night terrors. Mom said that it was like around the same time every night, around 3 a.m., and he would wake up and he would say, I think the exact quote was like, plane on fire, little boy down, or something like that, or little man down. And I guess he would say that for multiple nights. But I guess I'll share my thoughts at the end. I just feel like that's at his age, because he wasn't quite 2 years old yet. They're saying this started at 18 months. But I'll just share that at the end. So I guess it got worse when his dad took him to a like a aerial museum, like an airplane museum, and they were saying how James was like really drawn to the World War II planes, and I guess that just stuck with him. But these claims were before he went to the museum, so he started saying stuff before the museum. Parents took him to the museum. It got worse, obviously, but I guess just when his parents would ask him like specific questions, he had answers for everything, and it all checked out, supposedly, if what they're telling is the truth, when you look things up. Like, even to the point where he said the name of a friend that was on the aircraft with him. And him at 2 years old, I mean, you're not going to know, right? Like, who that person was. But they verified it. Like, the name that he gave was a friend of James Houston, who he's claiming to be, and was on the aircraft with him. He even gave the name of the aircraft carrier that he was on. He gave the name of the airplane that he was on. I have the name of the airplane. 1 second. I'll find it in a minute. But I just think, like, at his age, that's crazy things to just say.
yeah.
And everything supposedly is verified. I mean, the parents even went as far to, they found James Houston's sister, who at the time, this was back in the early 2000s, I guess, but was still alive. And they actually met up with her, and the sister is saying, like, yeah, like everything that James Leninger, the little boy, is saying about James Houston is absolutely true. Like, she claims there's no way he would know certain things, and she just believes that that is her brother in this little boy's body. But another thing that I thought was interesting, in one video clip that I saw, um they went to Japan, where supposedly James Houston did get killed. He was shot down in an airplane in World War II. And they actually had a memorial service for him on the water, like in a boat. And the mother and the dad claimed that James Leninger, the little boy, was so emotional, like he cried the whole time. And I guess the mom was just telling him the whole time, like, you have to let James Houston go. Like, this is like the goodbye. And I guess supposedly he saluted the water. And from there on, supposedly, I guess he got better. So, I don't know, obviously, James Leninger or his family. This is just all things that I'm seeing from the internet. But I think that's pretty crazy. Out of all things to say that you are at the age of 2 years old is a deceased World War I can't say that World War II veteran. And I also think it's crazy that he was saying some of the things at 18 months old. That's just my personal opinion, but
Yeah, to know like the name of the aircrafts is.
Yeah, I have the name of it. I don't want to like keep like awkward silence. I have it somewhere here, but yeah, like he knew the name of the plane that he was on. He knew the name of the boat that he was on, that he would fly off of, like the aircraft carrier thing. He knew the friend's name that was on the boat with him, who actually survived.
Oh, the friend survived. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think they got in contact with the friend too in a clip that I saw.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, that's my one story. I thought that was pretty crazy to start at such a young age. But then there's people saying too, like scientists and stuff, saying that it's all just a figment of his imagination, similar to having like an imaginary friend, but like a lot more extreme, I guess.
How would he know all this information?
Right, and that's what's up for debate. It's like, how do you just wake up one day or one night at 3 a.m. of these night terrors that you're being shot down in an airplane?
Right. And you know all this information.
Yeah. I mean, to know the aircraft carrier is creepy, especially at such a young age.
Yeah.
And to know like all these facts that me at age 30 wouldn't even know. Like supposedly he even knew, like playing with the airplanes, like as that he had like toy airplanes, like he would know every part of the airplane. And like mom and dad said that they never taught him any of that. Like he never watched TV shows or movies that would teach him anything like that. Because I remember in one clip, like mom even claimed that it was like a bomb or something under the little toy airplane. And he corrected her and was like, no, it's, I forget what the part of the airplane was, but he was like, no, it's not a bomb, it's whatever the part was.
Wow.
But at such a young age, I mean, that's pretty crazy, so.
That's really interesting, though.
Yeah, and I think what's also interesting is his name is also James, like he's James Leninger, and then you claim that you're James Houston from way back when.
Right.
So, and then there's people that are like, oh, that's fake, they just wanted attention, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, we don't know, but...
Right. That's true.
It caught my attention regardless. I was interested.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So now James Leninger is, I don't know the exact age he would be, but I'm pretty sure he's an adult now. I'm sure he's over 18.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if he still thinks that he's James Houston or feels James Houston in his body or whatever. I don't know how that works, but...
That would be really... That would be something. If he still felt that way.
Yeah. But it was sweet. I mean, the sister of James Houston, like, gave her 2 items, I guess, that was in his house
Mm.
for little boy James to keep.
Oh,
And I thought that was
that's
sweet.
fun.
So that's my first story. I'm curious if anybody, I guess we'll wait to the end. I don't know how many people you have on your live, but I'm curious if other people have heard of this because it was so popular when I was looking stuff up. But I've never heard of it. Then again, that's pretty specific to be looking up stories of reincarnation, right?
Right. Well, you
But
never know. People go down rabbit holes all the time.
yeah, yeah. But they were on multiple shows, multiple newscasts, and all that. So, which leads to the other thing. It's like they want attention or money or fame or
Right.
whatever. But I don't know. I think I'm like I want to believe in it, like what you were saying, and I think in a way I kind of do.
Right.
I've never felt like I was somebody else or took on any feelings like that, but I think it's cool to believe in.
That is cool.
You could, I mean, I want to believe in Bigfoot too. Like, I want to believe in anything. It's just like cool to,
Mothman.
you know, but
Yeah.
do you have one you want to share?
Yes. This one is about the Pollock. What? Okay, so it's Pollock or Pollock twins. Either way, it's the same spelling. So the Pollock twins. Okay, this is in the town of Hexham, England, in the 1950s. Was the kind of place where life moved slowly and predictably. It was a quiet market town in Northumberland where neighbors knew one another, children played freely in streets, and Sunday mornings were marked by the familiar ringing of church bells calling families to service. It was the kind of community where parents felt safe letting their children walk down the road alone. For the Pollock family, Hexham was home, a place where they were raising their 2 daughters, Joanna and Jacqueline. Joanna Pollock was 11 years old, mature for her age, and known for being protective of her younger sister, Jacqueline Pollock, who was 6, had a lively and playful personality. She also had a few distant physical features that people close to the family remembered well. Jacqueline had a noticeable birthmark on her right hip, something she had since birth. When she was younger, she had also fallen and struck her head on a bucket, leaving her with a scar across her forehead that remained visible. The 2 sisters were extremely close. They shared toys, walked to school together, and often spent their free time playing in the streets around their home. Every Sunday, like many families in Hexham, they walked to church. It was a simple routine that had become part of their weekly lives. But on May 5th, 1957, the ordinary routine would end tragically. That morning, Joanna and Jacqueline left their house to walk to the church with a friend. Their parents stayed behind, expecting the girls to return home later that day, just as they had always. They walked to the church. The walk to the church was short, and there was nothing usual about the morning. As the children walked along the road, a car suddenly came speeding toward them. Behind the wheel was a local woman named Margie, Marjorie Wynn. Reports from the time later suggest that she had been experienced severe emotional distress and mentally instability. Witnesses who saw the moments leading up to the crash later described her as looking detached, almost as if she were not fully aware of what she was doing. Before anyone nearby had time to react, the car accelerated into the group of children. The collision was violent and immediate. Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock were killed instantly. In the space of a few seconds, the lives of two young girls were gone, and the peaceful town of Hexham was left shaken by sudden tragedy. News of the accident spread quickly through the community, and for many residents, it was a heartbreaking reminder of how fragile life could be. But no one felt the devastation more deeply than John and Florence Pollock. They had lost both of their daughters in the same accident. Their home, which once echoed with the sounds of children laughing and playing, suddenly became peacefully quiet. Two bedrooms remained untouched. Toys, clothes, and drawings were left behind as reminders of the lives that had been cut short. While Florence struggled through overwhelming grief, John Pollock clung to something that many people around him found difficult to understand. John strongly believed in reincarnation. The idea that after death, a person's soul can return to live another life in a new body. Even before the accident, John had held spiritual beliefs about life continuing after death. After losing his daughters, that belief became even stronger. According to people close to the family, John began telling friends and relatives that Joanna and Jacqueline would come back to them. He believed their souls would return to the family as new children. About a year after the incident, Florence became pregnant again. The pregnancy brought a mix of emotions to the Pollock household. While there was hope for the future, the loss of Joanna and Jacqueline was still very fresh. Doctors initially examined Florence and told the couple that she was carrying one baby. But on October 4th, 1958, Florence gave birth to two twin girls. The babies were named Jillian and Jennifer. The birth of the twins brought joy back into the household, but it also raised an unsettling question in John's mind. He had believed that Joanna and Jacqueline would return, and now two new daughters have arrived. At first, the twins appeared to be perfectly normal children. They were healthy, energetic, and grew just like any other young siblings. But as the girls began to develop and their personalities formed, strange similarities started appearing. Jennifer, one of the twins, was born with a pale birthmark on her forehead. The mark closely resembled the scar Jacqueline had received years earlier when she struck her head in childhood. Even more striking was another birthmark Jennifer had on her right hip, in nearly the exact same place where Jacqueline had her distinctive birthmark. At first, the family tried to dismiss the similarities as a coincidence, but as the twins began to speak and play, more usual moments followed. The girls started asking about toys that had belonged to Joanna and Jacqueline. After the accident, many of the original sisters' belongings had been packed away and stored in the house. The twins had never seen the toys before and had never been told who they belonged to. But when the toys were eventually brought out, the twins seemed to recognize them immediately. They began claiming certain toys as their own. In some cases, they even referred to the toys using them the same names Joanna and Jacqueline had used years earlier. Their parents were shocked. The twins should have had no way of knowing those details. As the girls grew a little older, more unsettling behavior appeared. At one point, the family moved away from Hexham for a period of time. Later, when they returned to visit the town, the twins began pointing out familiar places as they drove through the streets. They recognized playgrounds, buildings, and areas that Joanna and Jacqueline had once visited, places the twins had never seen before in their current lives. According to their parents, the girls spoke about certain locations as if they had memories of being there. But perhaps the most chilling behavior involved cars. On multiple occasions, when a vehicle passed by them while they were outside playing, the twins suddenly became extremely frightened. They would cling tightly to each other and scream in panic. Witnesses recalled hearing them cry out that the car was coming for them. The fear appeared to come from nowhere, yet it seemed eerily connected to the way Joanna and Jacqueline had died. As the time went on, however, the strange behaviors began to fade. By the time Jillian and Jennifer reached around 5 years old, the comments about past memories became less frequent. Eventually, they stopped entirely. The twins grew up and went on to live normal lives, but the unusual events from their early childhood attracted attention from the researchers studying cases of children who claimed to remember past lives. One of the investigators who later examined the case was a psychiatrist, Dr. Ian Stevenson, who spent decades documenting similar reports from around the world. The Pollock twins eventually became one of the most widely discussed alleged reincarnation cases ever recorded in Western history. Some researchers believe the similarities between the twins and the deceased sisters are too specific to ignore. Others argue that John Pollock's strong belief in reincarnation may have unintentionally influenced the way the children were raised or the way their behaviors were interpreted. Even though today the story continues to divide in opinion, some believe it offers rare evidence that reincarnation might be possible. Others believe coincidence, grief, and suggestion could explain what happened, but one unsettling question continues to linger. If Jillian and Jennifer had truly never been told about their sisters who died before them, how did they seem to remember so much about lives they never lived? And that is my story. One story.
I don't believe it,
You don't believe it?
respectfully. I think the dad. Okay, so right off the beginning, I was like, dad's wishful thinking.
Right.
But it is weird that they thought the mom was going to have one kid and she had two.
Yeah, 2 girls.
So that just happened at birth. Like, they didn't know they were going to have two kids until she gave birth to two kids.
Right.
So that's weird. That is weird.
Yeah.
And then the birthmark thing is weird, but I feel like that's not the weirdest.
No.
And then,
But there was 2 marks.
yeah, they had the same ones that the other sisters had.
Yes.
Part of me wants to be like, it could be a hereditary thing. I don't know. But then it's like they played with the same toys and they had the same names of the same toys. That's weird. But then it's also like, I go back to the dad.
Yeah, the dad's very...
Right off the bat, the dad's like, they're going to come back. But it's weird that they didn't know they were going to have twins. That's weird.
And they were both girls.
Yeah. I'm 50-50 on this one. Oh, and the James one, I'm not also 100% either. The one that I said, I'm not 100% either. But
Right. But I don't know, because that's crazy. Unless they're actually telling the kid, like, about, you know, the planes and stuff about it.
yeah.
I don't know.
And the thing with the twins, why... I was going to say, like, why would they keep the toys? But I guess grief is different. Maybe they like to have the toys of the girls around.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That is interesting. That one's kind of like cooler in the sense of there's two. And then they're talking about
Right.
like how the other sisters died. Yeah,
I
that
don't
is
know.
interesting.
I don't know. I kind of do believe in reincarnation, and that could be a real thing, though.
But do you think that that's the actual twins, or that maybe? So here's a question: do you think
Well,
like
the first that weren't twins, remember?
Huh?
The first 2 girls, they weren't twins. They were 2 different ages.
Oh, my bad.
Mhm.
I thought they were twins the whole time.
Mm-mm.
Okay,
The
alright.
second set
Yeah,
was
because
twins.
that would be weird to have like. Okay. Okay, so that's weird. That is weird. But so when you think of like reincarnation, do you think it's the actual souls are just in different like do you think these twins that were just born are the other sisters? Or do you think that they're just having memories of their past sisters? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Okay, so hear me out. I feel like yes, the souls were like when the twins were born, their souls like went to those twins, and this is why. So all as they were kids up until whatever how many years they cut off talking about it because they didn't live past those years. So what other comments could they have about their sisters' lives? So that
Mm-hmm.
could be, or it could be, yes, like you said, the parents telling them things about the sisters, but
Yeah.
I don't know. You're
I'm
right. That is a
50-50.
50. Yeah.
Because that is creepy.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Edgar's whimpering. I have another one that I found on Reader's Digest. It's just like random, it's not very long, but it's supposedly about this boy, Sam, who also at the age of 2 years old, which I think is weird. Why? I don't know if I'm just not around the right 2 year olds, but like these 2 year olds are talking like straight up adults with mortgages. But this 2 year old
No, for
just
real.
randomly started telling his dad one day, like, as he was changing his diaper, this is on, I don't have specifics, it's just on the internet. I found this, I thought it was cool. So he's just, the 2 year old, as he's getting his diaper changed, was telling his dad, like, this is funny because I used to change your diapers. And long story short, they believed that, and his name is Sam, the little boy. So the
Yeah.
dad believes that Sam is his dad. Like, come back. Specifically, like, he believes his dad. And he would ask Sam, he would be like, how did you come back? And Sam responded that he came out of the portal, which is creepy. Like, you have to throw the whole child out
Oh.
after that. Like, if my kid was like, I came out of the portal, no, respectfully. Because what's the portal?
Respectfully get somebody else to do it.
Yeah, I don't like that. But that was Sam's response to how he came back, was through a portal. Another thing was they asked if Sam, whoever was in Sam, had any siblings, and he said that yes, that he had a sister, and she turned into a fish. So this is where it's weird. So Sam's dad, the grandfather that supposedly Sam is,
Mm-hmm.
or soul, whatever is in his body, he did have a sister, and the sister died by drowning. So that was weird to say that she turned into a fish. What else? I have more.
Okay,
Sorry,
but
one
I love
second.
that theory.
That's weird, right?
Yeah, but I love it.
Right, it's
It's
creepy.
like you drowned. Okay, so like whatever your death is, like you drowned and you come back as like a sea animal.
That, or, yeah, I don't know. And let's see. So, when asked who turned her into a fish, he responded, some bad guys. She died. And like I said, it turns out that the grandfather did have a sister. This was 60 years earlier that she was found floating in the San Francisco Bay.
Wow.
So, I guess she drowned somehow. And then the parents asked Sam, do you know how you died? And he jerked his head back and he slapped the top of his head. And then the dad of Sam claims that his dad had died from a brain hemorrhage. And that's all I got.
Oh,
But that's kind of creepy
I
if it's
like
real.
that.
If it's real.
I like the fish one.
Right?
Like I'm,
Because he could have just been like, yeah, she died or she drowned. But he's like, no, she's a fish.
right. Like what kind of fish are?
Because we don't think about that, right? Like reincarnation, what if you come back as a fish? What if you come back
Right.
as a animal? I don't know.
I'm like that's very, very curious about that one.
Yeah. So that was just a little story that I saw. Obviously, don't know if it's real or not, but I like to think it is. That's pretty cool. Although I'd have to throw Sam out because that's a little too I feel like
Like, I used to
Sam.
change your diapers.
Right, like, don't tell me that.
Like, no, sir. Whose
Yeah,
diapers?
right. Just don't talk to me for the rest of your life.
No, for real.
But that's cool. But that's really cool. I think that is cool. Do you have another one?
I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. Past life or coincidence? The Titanic case.
Yeah, I want to hear this one. This is cool.
There are some fears we can explain, moments tied to memories, experiences we can trace back to something real. And then there are fears that seem to exist without origin, without reason, and as if they were carried from somewhere we can't quite reach. Elizabeth Wilson lived an ordinary life in Florida. She had she had no known trauma, no deep connection to the ocean, no fascination with maritime history. And yet, for as long as she could remember, she was terrified of water, not just uneasy or cautious, but deeply overwhelmingly afraid. The kind of fear that settles into your chest and refuses to loosen its grip. She avoided pools, stayed far from beaches, and felt a wave of panic at the mere sight of deep, dark water. What made it even more unsettling was that she had no idea why. At first, it was just that, a fear she couldn't explain. But then the dreams began. They were unlikely like any dream she had experienced before. They were vivid, detailed, and hauntingly consistent. They didn't feel like imagination, they felt like memory. In these dreams, Elizabeth wasn't herself. She was someone else, moving through a world that felt both foreign and strangely familiar. She could feel the weight of elegant clothing draped over her body, layers of fabric from another time. She found herself inside a massive ship surrounded by towering ceilings, polished wood, and intricate design. At the center of it all stood a grand staircase, wide and breathtaking, with a glass dome overhead allowing light to spill down into space below. She didn't just see it, she remembered it. As the dreams continued, something began to shift. What once felt calm and almost beautiful started to change. There was tension in the air, a heaviness that settled into every corner of the ship. The quiet elegance gave way to unease. Then came the sounds, faint at first, but growling louder with each passing dream. Voices, confusion, panic, people running, shouting, trying to understand what was happening. The ship was no longer a place of luxury. It had become a place of fear. Elizabeth could feel it building, like something terrible was unfolding around her. Something she couldn't stop. And then she came. We're going to have to edit that out. And then she came the part. And then I did it again. Sorry. And then came the part she would never forget. She found herself outside, surrounded by darkness and cold. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction, black and unforgiving. The air was sharp against her skin, and the fear she felt was overwhelming, raw, consuming, impossible to ignore. She wasn't just watching this moment, she was inside it, living it. Then suddenly she was in the water. The cold was unbearable, shocking her system, stealing the breath from her lungs. Her body felt heavy, frozen, unable to move. The noise above the surface faded into the distant chaos, while beneath it there was only silence, and then nothing. She would wake up gasping, her heart racing, her body trembling as if she had just experienced something real. The feeling didn't disappear when the dream ended, it lingered, clinging to her like a memory that refused to fade. Over time, Elizabeth began to question what was happening to her. The details were too specific, too consistent to dismiss as ordinary dreams. She began to describe what she was seeing: the ship, the staircase, the glass dome, the feeling of belonging in a place she had never been. And eventually she came to a chilling conclusion. She believed she had died there aboard the Titanic. The RMS Titanic sinking is one of the most well-known tragedies in history, and many people are familiar with its story. But Elizabeth insisted that her experience didn't come from books, movies, or secondhand knowledge. She had never been particularly interested in the Titanic before the dreams began. Yet the way she described it felt personal, as if she were recalling something she had lived through, rather than something she had learned. But the most unsettling part of her story didn't come from the ship. It came from what she claimed to remember beyond it. Elizabeth began speaking about a house, describing it in vivid detail. She said it was large and brown, located near the water, with a layout she could clearly picture in her mind. She insisted it was in Boston. This raised immediate questions because Elizabeth had never been to Boston. She had no connection to the city, no reason to be familiar with it, and yet she spoke about this house with certainty, as if it were a place she had once called home. When researchers looked into her claims, they expected to find nothing more than a coincidence or vague similarities. But what they found was far more unsettling. There was, in fact, a house in Boston that closely matched Elizabeth's description, near the water, with the features that aligned with what she had described. And when they traced the history of the home, they discovered it had once belonged to a woman who had died on the Titanic. There was no known connection between Elizabeth and this woman, no shared history, no clear explanation for how these details could align so closely. People argued that the mind is capable of extraordinary things, that it can create vivid experiences, piece together fragments of information, and blur the line between imagination and memory. They suggest that Elizabeth's fear of the water could have influenced her dreams, or that she may have absorbed details about the Titanic without realizing it. But others see it differently. They pointed to emotional intensity of her experiences, the consistency of her visions, and the specificity of the details she described. They questioned whether something more could be at play, something that challenges our understanding or memory itself. Because in the end, what makes this story linger isn't just the idea of reincarnation, it's the feeling that comes with it. The thought that something so powerful, so traumatic, could leave an imprint strong enough to carry on beyond death. That a moment frozen in time, cold, dark, and filled with fear, could somehow find its way back. And maybe that's the most unsettling question of all. When Elizabeth Wilson looked at the ocean and felt that unexplainable fear, was she simply afraid of water, or was it she remembering something that took her life?
What do you think?
I'm not sure how to feel about this one.
I know, right? Me too.
I'm not sure how to feel about this one.
Did you say her age when this happened? I forget if you said her age.
No, but I could look it up real quick.
No, No, I mean it's no big deal. I say that because I'm curious. I'm like, did she watch the Titanic before? And maybe the Titanic just scarred her somehow. I don't know. I'm not trying to be a downer, but I'm trying to think of like. You don't have to look it up. I'm just curious. Because I don't know. I'm not making sense.
Um,
It is very specific. I don't know. Because that's like all of them. I mean, I don't know. I'm 50-50, I guess, in general.
it says her exact age isn't well documented or widely confirmed in reliable sources. So is this made up?
I don't know. Are any of them made up? But that is very specific, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it'll explain. That explains why you're scared of water.
Yeah.
And to be on the water.
That's true.
I mean, obviously, a lot of people died on the Titanic, so
A lot.
somebody could have
Well,
came back.
wasn't it like there was like a lady like in the Titanic movies or in the Titanic movie who said like she like lived through it
I
or
think
something
so,
like
right?
that. She had like the blue necklace, but I felt like I seen like later on like um that she was lying or they found out like it wasn't true.
I thought I heard that too. Yeah. They just
So I
made it a part
found
of the movie or something.
yeah, I found her name was Rose.
Yeah, I only watched the Titanic one time in my whole life, and I didn't even watch the whole thing.
Oh my god, I
It was
watched
just
it
bits and
multiple
pieces.
times. I watched it multiple times. I
It's
loved it
too
because
long for me.
I just literally was in love with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so
I agree with that, but if the movie's pushing 3 hours, I can't do it. You have to really draw me in, and it just didn't draw me in. Also, I was young. I'd have to try it again, I guess. I just watched bits and pieces.
that's fair.
But
I love the
overall,
Titanic.
huh?
I said I love the Titanic.
I'd be willing to watch it again, I guess. I'm not familiar. I'd like to go to the Titanic Museum.
Yeah, isn't it in
That'd be
Tennessee?
neat. I think they have multiple. I think there's one in Florida too.
Oh wow. I think
Yeah.
there's like one in Tennessee where it's like the ship and it like I don't know, like does something like with water and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You could feel like the actual temperature of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be neat. I
So
don't
that's
know.
good.
I'm also 50-50 on that story. I
Yeah.
guess I'm going to be 50-50 on all of them. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this is real. It's cool to think about.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Um I do want to believe that reincarnation is real. Cause
hmm
like where does your soul go?
Everybody, everybody thinks it's heaven or hell, or nowhere, or you're just done, or you get reincarnated into a whale or a turtle
Oh
or a person.
my god, a sea turtle? A sea turtle or a dolphin?
Is that what you want to be?
As long as I'm like a smart one and I don't
Hi,
like
Taj.
go after
Sorry.
like the plastic.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Like, you're gonna choke on some plastic and die. I don't want you to be a sea turtle.
God damn you. But even like a dolphin. But they're pretty smart.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't want to be an animal. I want to come back as a human, I
I don't
guess.
know if I would, like, do you really want to come back as a human and redo all of this all over again?
Preferably rich and skinny, yes.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know.
That's
Who
true.
knows?
Richard,
Who knows what happens after?
right.
A fun fact, supposedly 33% of people do believe in reincarnation.
Period. Period.
So that is a statistic.
I love that. I don't know. I'm gonna say that reincarnation's real.
Yeah.
Do I have proof? No, but I'm gonna think that it is.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
gonna
agree.
come back as, I don't know. Maybe a
A
human,
dolphin.
you're right. No, I want to come back as a bad bitch. A rich one, though, this time. I mean, I'm already a bad bitch,
You're
but, like,
already
I
a,
need to be
yeah,
fit and skinny.
me too.
And maybe just one baby daddy.
Damn. Moving on. I I have a story about. Oh, I wonder if Taj is still on here because Taj. Well, I just said her name. Sorry. Well, I don't think she cares. But I guess it was a movie, Miracles from Heaven, which I didn't know until we were talking about it at work. So if anybody doesn't know the story, it is about Annabelle Beam, who was diagnosed with two life-threatening digestive disorders. And long story short, at age 8, she was sitting on a tree branch. She fell 30 feet into like the base of a tree hollow. Was stuck for 6 hours. Was it 6 hours? Yes. And claims that while she was stuck, she went to heaven, sat on Jesus' lap, and Jesus told her that when the firefighters rescue her, she would be without any pain and she would be healed. And then she asked Jesus if she could stay with him, and Jesus said no, because I have plans for you on earth. And that is supposedly based off of a movie that I did not know about. Shout out Taj for telling me that. Miracles from Heaven. If anybody else has watched that or heard of it,
I have heard of it. I haven't watched it, but now I want to watch it.
that's crazy. Being stuck in a tree hollow,
Right.
whatever that is, being stuck for 6 hours. So I guess she was dead? Or did she just, you know what I mean? Like, did your heart stop and then they revived you? Or
That's probably
you were
what
just chilling
happened.
with Jesus?
He visited Jesus.
I don't know. Um, and then I have another one. I know these are short, so I'll just say my other one.
That's
But there's
okay.
another one there's a lady, Tessa Romero from Spain. I don't know. Have you heard of that? Did you hear about that during your
Mm-mm.
research?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Well, she was, at the age 50, her heart stopped while she was bringing her kids to school. And she claims that she had a feeling that morning that she was going to die. And while she was in the car, dead, she had no pulse for 24 minutes. She claims that she was like floating above her body, which that's also another common one that I hear also during my research. Everybody who dies or like has no pulse for an amount of time claims that they could like see their body or like they're above it. So she claims the same thing. She also claimed that she felt extreme peace and no pain whatsoever in her body. She claimed that she was also in complete control. So she felt like she could move and she could talk, but obviously the rescuers there couldn't hear her. But she claimed she was talking to them, trying to like tell them that she was still here. When she woke up, she knew that it was not a dream, and she knew that she was clinically dead, is what she claims. And when she woke up, she felt like time was moving slower and it was more charged. But that is all I have on Tessa. Is that her name? Tessa? Yes. But I will say during my research, I didn't write Like, some of them were similar to her. Like, they just say, hey, like, I don't know, it could have been a car accident or something, and you just lost, like, you didn't have a heartbeat for a certain amount of minutes, and they just claim they could see their body. Like, they're just above their body, or like when you're in the hospital and they're like resuscitating you, there's an, like, everybody just claims the same thing, that they could just see or hover above their body. Do you have any? I don't have very long ones. Sorry, but
Um,
that's crazy.
you have any more?
No, I just wrote those two because, like I said, I feel like all the ones that I was reading were similar. It was the same thing, just like I could see my body, and just that they were in no pain. And then, of course, like the stereotypical where people say like they could see a light. I was like reading stories where people say that they could see a light, but they either didn't go towards it and they like snapped back to their body or stuff like that. A lot of them were just similar to this Tessa. But the one thing that was weird is she felt like she was gonna die, so that's kind of weird.
I have one.
Okay.
Her name is Pam Reynolds. The operating room was colder than it needed to be. Bright lights hovered overhead, washing everything in a sterile glow. Doctors moved with quiet precision, their voices low, controlled. But what they were about to do wasn't ordinary. Pam Reynolds laid motionless on the table. To save her life, surgeons had to do something extreme, something that would blur the line between life and death. They would stop her heart, drain the blood from her body, shut down her brain, and for a while she would be clinically dead. As the procedure began, her body was cold. Sorry. Electrodes, I don't know if I said that right, monitored every flicker of brain activity. Small speakers were placed in her ears, clicking loudly, ensuring there was no way she could hear anything around her. One by one, her vital signs disappeared, heartbeat gone, brain waves flat, blood flow stopped. The room continued working, but Pam wasn't there anymore. She later said the first thing she noticed was a strange vibration, like a sudden release. And then, just as quickly, she was above her body looking down. She described the scene with eerie clarity. The doctors gathered around her, the positioning of their hands, the tools laid out beside them. One instrument caught her attention in particular. It looked, she said, like a electric toothbrush. It wasn't, it was a specialized bone saw. She watched as they began, heard snippets of conversation she shouldn't have been able to hear, calm, focused, clinical. At one point, she claimed a female voice said her arteries were too small. Details later confirmed by the surgical team. Then everything changed. The operating room faded like a light being dimmed. The edges of the world softened and disappeared, and suddenly she was somewhere else. She described moving through darkness, not empty, not frightening, but vast and endless. Pulled gently forward as if something was guiding her. Then came the light, soft at first, then brighter and warmer, and within it, figures. She said she recognized them immediately. Loved ones, family members who have passed, surrounding her, welcoming her, communicating without words. There was no pain, no fear, just a deep, overwhelming sense of peace. Like she had finally arrived somewhere she was always meant to be. But she didn't say. She said one of them, an uncle, told her she had to go back, that it wasn't her time. She didn't want to. After everything she just had experienced, going back felt wrong, heavy, unnatural. But then the light began to fade, the warmth slipped away, and suddenly she was falling. Her body hit her like a shock. Pain, weight, sound, reality crashing back all at once. Her heart restarted, Blood returned, machines came alive again. At 10 a.m., Pam Reynolds was no longer dead. When she woke, she told them everything: the tools, the conversation, the details she couldn't have seen, couldn't have heard, not in her condition. Doctors were left with something they couldn't easily explain, because during this time she described all of this, Pam Reynolds had no brain activity, no awareness, no life, and somehow she remembered.
That's creepy.
That is creepy and
I
very
like that one.
interesting. I do too.
Yeah, that's almost like sleep paralysis in a way vibe.
Yes.
How I feel sometimes when I have
Yeah.
sleep paralysis. So it's kind of like she was just stuck. Like she could see
Yeah.
everything but couldn't move or talk or anything.
Yes.
But she was dead. So that's
She
creepy.
did that. No brain activity, no nothing.
Yeah, that's really creepy.
Yeah.
And she was one thing, like you mentioned, was like the coldness.
Yeah.
I, while doing research for this, I did see a story, and this was like, and somewhat recent. And it was a guy from Pennsylvania. I guess he was dead in the snow for, I think they said it was like 16 hours,
What the
and they
hell?
brought him back to life. And they said that it was something with being on ice. I don't have the specifics, but they said somehow him being in the ice, like his body temperature being as cold as it was, somehow made them able to revive him. I don't have specifics. You can look it up if you want, but
I will look that up later on.
dude was dead, yeah, for like a long time in the snow, somewhere
That's
like
crazy.
on a road. Then they
But
revived
then
him.
it preserved him. It
Yeah,
was preserving him.
that's crazy though, right? Because then, like, then
Yes.
you look back at the story that we did with the Yukon or the U-Bot, I forget, but like the five that were missing.
Yes.
Well, I guess maybe they didn't get to them in time. Yeah, because that. Never mind. Because I was gonna be like, why couldn't they revive? Never mind. Never mind. That's different. But that's weird, right?
Yeah.
I think they said it was 16 hours.
That
So
he
dude
was
was just
dead?
dead, chilling. Yeah, like wherever your soul goes after you die, just chilling out, dead. And then I guess whenever they found him, I think his brother found him or something. He was
That's
revived. That's
that's
so
crazy.
crazy. You're a whole ghost.
Right.
But that's all I
That's
have.
very interesting. That's all I have too.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Okay, guys.
yes.
Remember, don't be a savage, be a bad bitch.
Hey. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening, audio viewers.